Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching The Right Stand here on CNN News 18 with me, Poonam Burde. In less than 48 hours from now, India will get a new parliament. A new and improved one, in the words of a former member of parliament and a former chief minister, a pretty damn impressive one. A massive building sprawling over 64,000 square meters will be dedicated to the nation on Sunday. Large halls fitted with modern communications tech that can accommodate hundreds of MPs. Interiors which reflect our culture and our heritage. 3 national symbols adorn the walls and the ceilings of this new parliament building: the lotus, the peacock and the banyan tree, as you see on your screens. It has a grand constitution hall to showcase India's democratic heritage, a lounge for members of parliament, a state-of-the-art library and multiple committee rooms which are not enough in the current building. But while the Prime Minister calls on every Indian to lend their voice to this house of people, politicians in our country, unfortunately, are striking a discordant note. On the day of the inauguration, the Prime Minister will install a relic of the past in the Parliament, for the House of the Representatives to look into our past, our culture and tradition and help shape our future. The Sengol is the latest flashpoint between the opposition and the centre. The Sengol was received by India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, in 1947 from Lord Mountbatten to symbolically represent the transfer of power from the British. That's the claim the centre makes. That claim is being contested now. With its installation in the new building, though, the centre hopes to remind the country that we are truly moving forward as an independent nation. A transfer from a colonial era structure to a structure that is symbolic of a self-reliant India. So why the objection then? Now, these objections not just coming in from the principal opposition party in this country, which is the Congress, but several others as well. And those objections range from one spectrum to the other, from distortion of history to the opposition's meaning of transfer of power. Let me take you through some of those criticisms and objections as they've come to the fore, all of which played out in social media today. Jairam Ramesh, a member of parliament of the Congress today, said that the BJP and the RSS is distorting this narrative. It's been exposed with minimum evidence. There's just maximum claims, minimum evidence is what Jairam Ramesh said. There is no documented evidence of a symbol of transfer of power at all, is what Jairam Ramesh also then went on to say. Manish Tiwari of the Congress party echoed something similar. He says there's absolutely no mention of Mountbatten ever handing over the Sengol to Jawaharlal Nehru. All the claims to this effect that are being made by the BJP, Manish Tiwari alleged, are plain and simple bogus. There were others within the opposition ranks who also came out and echoed something similar. SP Chief Akhilesh Yadav, he came out and said that Sengol is a symbol of transfer of power as per the BJP, so it looks like the BJP has accepted that their time has come to hand over the power to someone else. Clyde Crasto of the NCP too echoed that sentiment and brought in 2024 general elections, where he said the scepter will herald a beginning of the transfer of power, and that transfer of power will happen after the 2024 elections next year. So now the fight over the Sengol is indeed curious. Everyone accepts that historically it was used as a symbol of transfer of power from one king to another. The very use of the Sengol during independence and the fact that the British ruler handed it to the first Indian Prime Minister will naturally suggest its significance was indeed to suggest, at least ceremonially, the transfer of power. But for some reason, the Congress is insisting that it doesn't mean anything. Then why was it used? Here are some of the documented evidences what is being claimed as by the centre. Here is what the mutt that arranged this golden scepter for Nehru had to say. They said that we were invited to conduct a ritual to symbolize transfer of power. The Swami who presented it to Nehru also made it clear that this is a symbol of self-rule. This was a statement that has been released to counter what the Congress has said today. The mutt, the Adinam, they came out today and they had great objections about what the Congress said and how they were calling this nothing but a distorted narrative. Meanwhile, the BJP also pointed out to an article in the Time magazine. This is dated August 25, 1947. That said that Sri Ambalavan thought that Nehru, as the first Indian head of a really Indian government, ought like ancient Hindu kings to receive the symbol of power and authority from Hindu holy men. Now, Congress leader Ramesh has also shared an article from The Hindu to buttress this particular point, that the Sengol claims by the BJP are bogus. But the same newspaper, The Hindu, has also said something very similar to this. They say that a well-known historian and researcher of Sangam literature has told The Hindu that the handing over of a scepter to denote the transfer of power has been in practice for nearly 2,000 years since the Sangam age. So if the Sengol itself symbolizes transfer of power, what is the objection really over?
country's dignity, country's prosperity is increasing day by day. Therefore, Congress party, by creating unnecessary controversy, trying to divert the attention of the people from the India's progress and the basic issues related to the nation.
गांधी खानदान वाकई में हमारे देश के इतिहास, हमारे देश के लोकतंत्र के बारे में क्या सोचता है?
Dated Tughlaq Tamil magazine had an article written by Sri Gurumurthy ji on this Sengol story. Wanted this to be part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. It has come to a point when it will be permanently installed in the very temple of our democracy.
Joining us on this broadcast, national spokesperson of the BJP, Guru Prakash Paswan. Congress's Lavanya Balal also joins us. Historian Bharat Gupta is with me. Suman Siraman, political analyst, also with us on this broadcast. And I'd like to begin by asking Lavanya Balal of the Congress party. Ms. Balal, why does the Congress think that this is nothing but a distorted view by the BJP and RSS? There is ample evidence to show the existence and the use of a Sengol.
First of all, when we are talking about this particular gift, it depends on how it is perceived by the person who has received the gift, correct? If you see the Sengol, it is usually when the power is transferred from one monarch to another. We were not getting into another monarchy when Nehru was leading the nation at that point of time. Also, the question is, why is it that whenever BJP does anything, there has to be so much of controversy? Why do they create so much of controversy? Why do they need to create so much of halla gulla around it and create fake narratives that when opposition leaders come and give a clarification, they say, hey, it is a flashpoint. It is never a flashpoint. They need to learn to function without drama. That's as simple as that, without fake narratives. We can all do away with the fake narratives that the BJP comes up with. And I think Jairam Ramesh has explained it very beautifully about what is going on with this particular gift.
So is the issue that it is not monarchy, that it's not transfer of power as far as Jawaharlal Nehru was concerned, or the fact that this Sengol was not used in the transfer of power at all? What is the issue?
Acceptance of a gift is a diplomatic reverence. Non-acceptance of the purpose and thought behind the gift is up to the receiver, right? I can receive a gift however I want it to. Now, the historical documents have never cited the late PM, Jawaharlal Nehru ji, reciprocating the thought and purpose of the gift. That's all we are stating. Now, somebody comes up, I have seen the tweets today from the BJP which says Nehru ji used it as a walking stick and some rubbish like that they're coming up with. The whole story behind the purpose of the gift as a symbol of handing over power is bogus and fake.
Guru Prakash Paswan, the entire narrative that the Congress is building is not a narrative. What the BJP is trying to do is bogus, says the Congress party. Because there is no evidence, there's very little evidence or absolutely none to show that this was actually a symbol of transfer of power at all. Maybe it was given at that particular time in 1947, but Jawaharlal Nehru didn't perceive it as such.
Poonam ji, a very warm good evening to you and all my fellow panelists. And from a party, the Congress party, that thinks that Lord Ram is fictional, for them to say Sengol is bogus, it's very much natural and expected. The Congress party, since its inception, has done so many things that in a way tells you of its colonial mindset. Poonamji, I would like to draw the attention of your viewers towards an op-ed that was published by the Guardian newspaper, and that's very relevant today as well. It was published in the month of May 2014, and it categorically said, it was titled India's Another Tryst with Destiny, and it says that May 2014 is the time when Britishers finally left India. In a way, for the last 60-65 years, while Congress was in power, the colonial vestiges was still relevant. This was the observation of the Guardian newspaper. This was not our observation. I have the paragraph from the Time magazine. The Time magazine from 1947 describes the event sequentially.
Sure.
Dominic Lapierre, one of the most remarkable and phenomenal books of our times, Freedom at Midnight, He has described the event sequentially, that how there was a havan taking place at the residence of Rajendra Prasad ji, and how seers from Tamil Nadu came and handed over this Sengol to the first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. So are you trying to suggest, my friends from the Congress party, senior leaders of the Congress party like Mr. Jairam Ramesh, Mr. Manish Tiwari, former minister and a parliamentarian today, are they suggesting that a British author, Dominic Lapierre, is also a product of WhatsApp University? Are you suggesting that the Time magazine is getting published from Nagpur? What is it that you're trying to suggest? But we have to understand the broad mindset of the Congress party. Congress party is a product of colonized mindset.
Sure.
Congress party practices the politics of polarization.
Sure.
Anything that is Indian, anything that is Hindu, Congress party will definitely have a problem with it, and this is just another glaring example of its hatred towards the civilizational and cultural and ethical and spiritual ethos of our country.
Sure, Lavanya Balal, there are certain instances that Guru Prakash Paswan listed. There's one that I want to list as well. One of your allies, the DMK, also not too long ago published an HR&C policy note. It happened in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. In that, they proudly recount the entire ceremony of the use and existence of Sengol. Would you then say your ally and what they published is also a product of WhatsApp University?
Let me make it very clear once again. The BJP's narrative that it is a handover of power from the British to the Indian Union of States is what we are claiming is false narrative by the BJP. The BJP is pretty rich coming from the BJP talking about the colonial past when they were the ones who joined hands with the British to rule India. That is different. But then when we are talking of the Sengol, I would like to ask the BJP, why is it even an issue? We are inaugurating a new parliament building, right? That should be the issue. Why is it tiny little things which has no bearing over the democracy of this nation or the functioning of this nation has to become the center point of discussion in this nation in the last 48 hours? Why is it that we are not completely discussing about how the president has been left out of the functions of this parliamentary inauguration?
We've discussed that. We've been discussing that here on CNN News 18 for the last 1 week as well.
Why are we
Those
discussing
discussions are happening, but it also, this entire controversy was also triggered because it was Congress leaders who took to social media to ask these questions today, isn't it?
Well, why did the BJP even talk about the Sengol? How is it very important to the democracy of this nation? The Sengol is a symbol of what? Is what we would like to know. Yes, it was handed over to the then Prime Minister by the religious heads who came from Tamil Nadu, who brought the Gangajal, sprinkled it, and there is an entire thing. If you notice, Rajaji's grandson has written an article about it, and I think he's the best person to write about it because Rajaji was present during that particular incident. Now, my question is, how does the Sengol bear any influence on the democratic functioning of this nation?
Sure, and I would want to, and to answer your question, I would want to get in the historian on the panel. Bharat Gupta is also joining us on this broadcast. And Mr. Gupta, you've been hearing what's been transpiring over the last 10 minutes or so. What is the relevance of this relic at all, is what the Congress asks. What is the bearing on democracy, or why should it be in the parliament?
Well, it is very simple. The Congress party, the present day Congress party, just needs to get a few fundamental lessons in the history of the country and in the culture of the country. Now, it is nothing less than stupid, and I'm using this word stupid very consciously, to say that the scepter is given from one monarch to another only. You see, it is not just given from one monarch to another. It is given from one ruler to another. Now, there are times when the ruler is a monarch, but when the social order changes, then the ruler is the Prime Minister of a democratically elected parliament. Now, this simple fact is what the Congress party, Jairam Ramesh, etc., are unable to understand because they have always practiced this willful disconnect with all the cultural symbols of the nation. The scepter is the Rajadanda, and Raj does not mean the monarch or the Raja. It means the state. The state is wielding a scepter or a dand which represents law and order. Now, I'll give you a quote from the Arthashastra. The Arthashastra says that there are four pillars of a state. And it says very clearly, Anvikshaki, Trayi, Varta, and Dandaniti. Now, what is this Dandaniti? Dandaniti is the law, the dharma, the law which the state not just enforces but upholds. And it is done for the well-being of the people by the government of the time. Now, just to say that this symbol is something which is feudal, just to say that this is something which belongs to Rajarajeshwar Chola, this only shows how the Congress is absolutely present-day Congress. I don't think Nehru would have done something like that, because Nehru very gladly accepted the ritual. It is the present-day Congress, controlled by Rahul and Sonia, which has this complete disconnect with the history of the nation.
Sure.
And
disconnect with history or not, transfer of power or not, if we're getting into the nitty-gritty, Sumansi Raman, some would say that it's the transfer of knowledge that's also not being looked into, if I may pun on that. That the transfer of knowledge is not happening because it was hidden away for decades together in a museum. No one knew about it. Over the last 2 years now, it came up. The government has decided to put it in the parliament, and now we're hearing all about it again. Even in Tamil Nadu, many, perhaps within the DMK as well, would like to believe that what the Congress is saying is not the case.
Poonam, I think the transfer of knowledge in the last 3-4 days through WhatsApp University is happening at a rapid pace, and it is spreading across the country remarkably quickly. So I don't think it's proper to say that the transfer of knowledge is not happening, at least on this particular issue. So look, the point is very simple. There is no evidence to say that this represented a transfer of power from the British to the Indian government of the day. That is the bottom line. Jawaharlal Nehru, did he receive it? Yes, of course he received it. And there are photographs to show that he received it, and enough and more evidence to say that he received this. But to then extend that further and say that actually Mountbatten gave it to him and this was meant to be a transfer of symbolic transfer of power and all that, those are basically WhatsApp University, portions which have been sort of extrapolated. Now the point clearly is that this entire issue is a distraction of sorts, because look, for the last 2 days, the entire debate on every prime time show is about the Sengol. I come from Tamil Nadu. I know about the history of how kings, predominantly it was used in monarchy to symbolize, the transfer of power from one monarch to the other. When sometimes the father would step down or would be aged, or sometimes once the father died, the son takes over the throne, and at that time the high priest will hand over the Sengol to him and to the king. That we have seen. We have seen it in so many movies. We've read so many books where all these scenes have been described. But let's be very clear. There are two issues here with this Sengol. One is this story being woven of it symbolizes the transfer of power from Mountbatten to Nehru, in those days, which is not factually backed by evidence. In fact, Mr. Guru Prakash pointed out a lot of stuff. He said Time magazine wrote. Where did Time magazine say Lord Mountbatten wanted this to be, or Lord Mountbatten said this would be a symbol of transfer of power? Nehru said yes, and this happened. Nowhere is there evidence for that. So the bottom line, the second part is, it is also very strongly associated with the Hindu religion. Now, I have no problem with saying that it is associated with the Hindu religion and going ahead with it. There's no problem. But should a secular state be looking, or should we be calling it as a secular initiative? Because clearly the Nandi, which is on the Sengol, is the mascot of Lord Shiva. There is no doubt about it. In the Cholas, throughout history, on which the Sengol is modelled, were very staunch Shaivites. They were worshippers of Lord Shiva. So I think that there are multiple issues with this, And if anybody can give us evidence to the contrary,
Sure. So
we'll
there's
be
very
happy to
little
be corrected.
evidence as to the transfer of power narrative of this. And like
Exactly.
the Congress was also pointing out, that this is not an issue at all. We should be talking about why the president is not invited for the inauguration, why 20 parties have decided to oppose the inauguration. So let's talk about that. And for that, I have someone joining us on this broadcast who's one of the 270 signatories who's written an open letter now. Basmati Mukherjee, a former diplomat, is joining us on this broadcast. And Ms. Mukherjee, thank you so much for speaking with us here. We've seen the 3-page letter that you and 269 other eminent personalities have written. Would you tell us why you've written this letter in the first place?
Yes, indeed, Poonam. Thank you for inviting me to your show. We have written this letter because we want to demonstrate that in a democracy, a vibrant democracy like India, while it's quite normal for political parties to have differing perspectives and to display those different perspectives in Parliament or outside Parliament, the inauguration of a new Parliament, which is a once-in-a-century event, which is a symbol of an aspirational India, a new India, rising India, should be celebrated by people outside Parliament and within Parliament. Our letter was written in the hope that they would have a second thought and would join these festivities, as indeed all of us outside Parliament, citizens of India, would watch and join from our homes. We would hope that if those who are lucky enough to be members of Parliament would all celebrate this moment together. We do not think that this is the time to demonstrate a highly polarized polity, which would convey an entirely wrong message within India and outside India, that the politicians and the parliamentarians of India cannot get together to celebrate something that is of national importance and is bringing joy to the people of India, because after all, what is the parliament but of the people, for the people, by the people? Now, there are those who say that the festivities should have been organized differently. Those of us who wrote the letter do not feel that there is any impropriety in the way the festivities have been organized. We would hope that our colleagues from the different parties whom we respect highly would have a rethink and would join the festivities on Sunday, because this is a moment where the nation will be rejoicing, and those who represent the nation, those who represent the people, should do the same. That is what the people would expect from them. That's the only reason.
Sure, but Ms. Mukherjee, the opposition says that we have one simple demand: invite the president, invite the first citizen of this country, and we'll be there. The onus is then on the party in power or the government to ensure that they follow proper protocol. Do you think that demand is not valid at all?
I think it is totally invalid. First of all, let me point out that those parties who are shedding crocodile tears because the first citizen of India has not been invited actually voted against the first citizen when the presidential elections were held. The same is true for the vice president, who, when he was governor in a particular state, he was actually humiliated on a daily basis. So I would say that their arguments are totally political. They are entitled to their views, but they are demonstrating to the world outside and to India a highly polarized polity, where they don't hesitate to drag in the first citizen of India for an extremely undignified debate, when they know fully well that there is nothing improper in the way the festivities have been arranged. And I would invite all of you to kindly look at the voting record when our first citizen was elected, to see who voted for her and who voted against her. Those who are shedding crocodile tears today are the same representatives of parties.
Sure, but Ms. Mukherjee, the point that the opposition is raising is not about a particular person, but about the president's office. Lavanya Balal of the Congress wants to get in. Yes, go ahead.
I would like to remind Ms. Mukherjee that electing a president is a constitutional right of this nation, ma'am, and it is a right given to the leaders of all the parties. BJP also previously has elected and not voted for a presidential candidate from Congress party or any other party. I think you seem to forget it is a constitutional right of all the parties in this nation. Having said that, we are once again asking for the constitutional right of the first citizen of this nation to be present at the constitutional inauguration. That is all that we are asking. Ma'am, you're very, very wrong in your interpretation of India's constitution. Thank you.
Ms. Mukherjee, there are some very strong words that you've used in your letter that's signed by several eminent personalities. You also, the kind of language that's been used specifically against the Congress party is what I want to point out, where you make references either to the first family or you say how the Congress's hubris has always come in the way of the nation's progress. Many would suggest, including the Congress and many others, would suggest that your letter and all the others who've signed on that dotted line are not apolitical at all to begin with and are perhaps pandering to a certain narrative.
Well, that, Poonam, is up to you to interpret. We are not members of any political party. We wrote the letter for the reasons I have articulated. My colleague from the Congress party thinks that I don't know the Constitution of India. She's probably not aware of the fact that I am actually a student of the Indian Constitution and a historian. I know exactly about the Indian Constitution. We may agree to disagree. But if you're trying to say that the 270 signatories are all politicians, no, they are not. But yes, we are occasionally horrified at the low levels to which the political debate goes, the way we do not respect each other's perspectives, and the way we drag in at a very low level politics, which should not come in when we are trying to celebrate the inauguration of a historic event, a new parliament. That is my perspective. I'm entitled to my views. My colleagues from the Congress party are entitled to theirs. Sure. I have signed the letter. I have no regrets. I do believe that they are wrong. They think I'm wrong. That's fine. We are in a democracy. We can agree to disagree. I have no problem with what the Congress party has said about me.
And that's the beauty of democracy. We're all entitled to have our views. We're all entitled to have our views. That's the beauty of democracy.
I'm not here. Sure. I'm not here to apologize for my views. Those are my views. Sure. I don't expect the Congress party to change their views either. Sure. I don't think I should be insulted on national television.
Can I ask a question, Poonam?
Sumansi Raman, go ahead, yes.
Former diplomat, can you tell us, ma'am, who actually out of the 270 wrote that letter? It would be interesting to know that. Who actually put those words about the Congress party, about the family and all of that in the letter, which conveys so beautifully the motive behind the writing of the letter. The second very important part is...
I'm sorry, I cannot see who's asking the question. I don't know who's asking the question.
This is Sumansi Raman.
Please identify for me.
This is Sumansi Raman, Ms. Mukherjee.
And secondly, I would like to inform you of Poonam. I have not joined this panel to be grilled like a convict.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not what's happening here, Ms. Mukherjee.
I have been
you wrote a letter, but you don't want to say who wrote it.
I cannot
signed a letter.
Sure.
You signed a letter, which you won't say who wrote.
Please conduct the debate in an impartial manner.
You wrote a letter, but you won't.
Ms. Mukherjee, you put forth your views. Another panelist has a question to ask.
He's asking me who wrote the letter.
Simple question.
270 people have written the letter.
Sure, Sumansi Raman, if 270 people have signed on the dotted line as far as this letter goes, then they perhaps are the words of everyone. Let's not digress.
Okay, let me make one more point.
No.
Let's not digress. But the point we were trying to make here, as far as this letter goes, and what the former diplomat was also trying to say, is that everyone is entitled to have their opinion. Everyone is entitled to have their opinion, as does the BJP, as does the Congress, and everyone else in this country. Which is why I want to ask Guru Prakash Paswan as well, when the opposition says that we are boycotting this event, because that is our right well within this democracy. It is our mark of protest, which is something that is allowed to us under this constitution. And they make a simple demand. They say that you invite the president and we'll come. It's as simple as that.
Poonam, I think we have to understand the sheer hypocrisy. Poonam, I think we have to understand the sheer hypocrisy of the opposition parties making this demand. I was patiently listening to my friend from the Congress party, and she said it is definitely the right of the Congress party to field their own candidate for the president. But is it also your right, madam, to insult the first ever president from tribal community from the backward region of Odisha on a daily basis? How are you going to justify the insult that was addressed to the first ever tribal lady who goes on to become the president of our country, who reaches the highest constitutional office in the country? Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, your leader of house in the parliament, do I need to remind you what he said? Mr. Ajay Kumar, your official national spokesperson, do I need to remind you what he said? Mr. Udit Raj, another official national spokesperson, do I need to remind you for what the words that he has used? The uncharitable comments that has been made every day, every single day. You have betrayed the mandate of the constitution by insulting and attacking the dignity of the office of the president. You cannot accept the fact, you cannot digest the fact today that a man from humble origin, a tea seller, a poor man who has seen poverty is today one of the most powerful prime minister of our country. You cannot digest the fact that a woman from Santhal community, from Mayurbhanj in Odisha, has reached the highest constitutional office in the country. Poonam, there is a simple point. We have to understand a couple of things. India is a civilizational state. Europe is a nation state. We are, as a nation, we were not born in 1947. We are a 5,000-year-old civilization. There are certain things which we need to understand. And as far as the scepter is concerned, we all saw when the Queen of England passed away, the scepter was there.
Sure.
Only the last month, the coronation of King Charles, the scepter was there. You did not make any hue and cry. You have to understand one simple thing. The Congress party has a fundamental allergy to anything that is Indian, that is civilizational, that is cultural. You will also deny that there were pictures from Ramayana. You will also deny that there were pictures from Ramayana in the Constitution of India.
Sure, this is something that the Union Home Minister also said today, Lavanya Ballal, that it is the Congress and the opposition is against all things Indian.
Yeah, well, I would like to respond. The BJP spokesperson, Mr. Guru Prakash Paswan, made a very emotional speech right now, but he refuses to answer the question why they are not inviting the president of this nation, the first citizen to inaugurate the constitution. And also, Ms. Mukherjee was very defensive when I said she has not understood the constitution, and I stand by my point of view. Ma'am, it's very sad that even after being such an expert in the field that you're talking about, that you think Congress fielding its own candidate and voting for its candidate is a betrayal of the cause of this nation. And the Panchayat Raj policies brought about by the Congress party is responsible for a tribal woman to move up in politics in India. It is also because of Congress party protecting the constitution of this nation that a man from humble origin can reach the highest office in this nation. I would like to know from the BJP spokesperson why they are so defensive and they are so against inviting this tribal lady who has achieved the highest office of this nation to the opening of the parliament. That is the only question. We do not need emotional speeches.
It is not about emotional speeches, madam. It is definitely not about emotional speeches, but the sheer politics. And Poonam, we need to understand that this is a serious national affair. I don't want to go into the whataboutery. I have hundreds of such examples, madam. Chhattisgarh new Vidhan Sabha was inaugurated. Madam Sonia Gandhi was present. In what capacity was she present? Is she? I did not speak when you were speaking. Madam, you were lecturing on the constitution. Let's have some constitution practice here in the debate itself. Let us have the patience to hear each other out. Thank you so much, madam. So you have to understand that it is a serious national affair. It is a serious constitutional affair. When the Naveen Vidhan Sabha Bhavan in Chhattisgarh was inaugurated, Madam Sonia Gandhi was the chief guest. She inaugurated. You tell me, is she the chief minister of Chhattisgarh? Is she the member of Legislative Assembly in Chhattisgarh? Is she the governor of Chhattisgarh? Similar things happened in Manipur Assembly as well. So this is not about conventions at all, but we need to understand the sheer politics of symbolism that you want to play over here. I can give you 100 such examples where the Congress party has done a similar thing. But in this case, you are indulging in pure politics. And I'm thankful to you, madam. I'm thankful to you that you are exposing yourself. You are exposing your feudal mindset that you will oppose any move that allows Dalits or tribals to reach to the constitutional office, but you will not shy away from using them as a political fodder. You will use them for their political leverage, but you will not allow them to reach the constitutional office. You will not allow them to reach the prime minister office. You will not allow them to become the president. You will insult them on a daily basis. So this is your true face. This is your true face. This is your feudalism exposed. This is your elitist arrogance exposed. This is your condescension exposed. You have to understand why this dual standard. You will not allow her to become the president, but you will use her for political advantage. I'm happy that you have exposed yourself.
Sure.
I'm happy
so
that
we talk
this
about
hypocrisy is
constitutional
out in
practices,
the
we
public.
talk about propriety. we talk about, yes, Lavanya Balal, 30 seconds before I get in the other guests.
I will reiterate my point. If Congress is such a horrible party which does not respect the democratic guidelines of this nation, why is the BJP following our footsteps? And why? He still has not answered. The president has not been invited. Why is she not inaugurating the Constitution building? He still doesn't answer. He goes about with the whataboutery. He goes on and on about blaming Congress, and he does not have an answer. We do not want an impassioned speech.
It's a day to celebrate for every single Indian. We would hope that all of our members of parliament, all those who represent us, irrespective of the party they come from, are present for that occasion. Many have chosen not to. But before I end this debate, I want to get in the last word from the historian on the panel, Bharat Gupta. And I want to ask you a larger question. You know, we've had this discussion about the kind of protocols that have been followed or not, the kind of narrative that has been that is being built over certain ceremonies or certain events that would be a part of this particular inauguration, like that of the installation of the Sengol. But it also begs the bigger question as far as our cultural heritage is concerned. Now, the government also talks about this particular building as how not only does it draw inferences from our various heritage sites, inspiration from our history and culture, but it really is, you know, the symbol of a new India, because this is self-reliance. This is where we are headed. So, the bigger point that I'm trying to make, Bharat Gupta, is that can we not take our past and the future together? Isn't that the way forward? Or or looking into past, is that taking two steps backwards?
Now let me tell you just something very simple. This new parliament has a marvelous array of the history and culture of the country. Right from the most ancient times, from the verses of the Rig Veda to the creation of democracy, to the flowering of art, all kinds of music, dance, everything is displayed. And I know this very well because the institution where I'm serving as a trustee, the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, has been entrusted with making of all the art panels, designing and doing the work. And this is something which we have been doing for 1 year. If the Congress party and the small-minded politicians were not creating this ruckus, which I believe they are doing at the instigation of some powers that happen to be outside India, if these people were really paying attention to the beautiful artwork which is there in the walls of the parliament, then they would see how beautifully the culture of the country, the history of the country is depicted there. And on 28th and later on for months and months, school children, college teachers and students, foreigners, visitors, people from the whole nation, when they walk through the parliament, they would be able to see that this parliament is very rich in culture, and the whole depiction is so beautiful. It has been done by the greatest scholars and artists and event makers in this country.
Can you name a few of
them?
And
it is something that we should concentrate. And thank you very much for asking me.
Can you name a few of them, please? These great scholars who have been consulted, these great artisans. Why don't you give us a few names so that the public can also be educated?
Well, they would all be revealed at the proper time. I don't want to.
No, since you know that, it's not a secret. See, it's not a top secret,
not a secret,
right? I mean, the building is already built.
But why can't you? But why can't you wait?
Because you said
when the whole thing is done in the proper order.
It's got the inputs from the best scholars, the great artisans. So you should tell us their names. Let the public know who they are.
Yes, the public will
deserve the credit, right? Don't they deserve credit?
Yes, the public will know.
Should their names be hidden away?
Sir, please, kindly listen. I have a reason not to take names, because I just don't want to take 2, 3 or 4 names. That would be unfair. There is a procedure, because everything is on record. When you will walk through those panels, then you will see all the details and you will see the contributions, the artists, and everything would be named there. So I am not taking names because I just don't want to take a few names.
Sure.
There are hundreds of people who contributed. It was a great effort, and I hope that our politicians get to appreciate
Sure.
the sweat and the hard work that people of the artistic kind have done for making this parliament beautiful.
Sure, controversy or not, how much of culture and heritage is there? What consultations were done? Who was invited? Who wasn't? Leaving all of that aside, Sunday is going to be a day when India does get a new parliament. That in itself is something that should be celebrated, and I want to end at that note. But I thank you all for joining us here on this broadcast with your perspective. Now, like I said, Sunday is going to be a momentous occasion for many, many reasons. India will not only get a new parliament, but we're also going to be getting a new commemorative coin that will be unveiled that day. This all ties in not just with the inauguration of the parliament, but it also marks 75 years of our independence. A special 75 rupee coin is going to be unveiled on that particular day, which is a tribute to 75 years of free India. The Ashoka pillar is going to be on one side of the coin. Satyameva Jayate and Bharat are going to be inscribed next to the Ashoka, to the national emblem. In English, India is going to be written on the right side. We're given to understand that on the reverse side of the coin, a parliament complex is going to be present. Sansad Sankul is going to be written in Devanagari, which means the parliament complex along the upper periphery of this particular coin. Now, the standard weight of this coin that is going to be unveiled, a commemorative one at that, is going to be 35 grams. It's circular in shape with a diameter of 44 millimeter. It has about 200 serrations is what we're learning. Now, this coin is made of up to 50% silver, 40% copper, 5% nickel and zinc each. That is how much the composition of this coin really is. So, can we use the 75 rupee coin in day-to-day transactions? Is it legal tender? Of course not. It is a commemorative coin. They're not used for general circulation. It is only going to be unveiled to mark this special occasion when India gets the new parliament. The coin's metallic value, in fact, exceeds its legal value far higher because, like I said, it has 50% silver in it. It's seen as a collectible. It's not meant for general use. It's not meant for day-to-day transactions. Now, this coin can be procured by anyone from a government website. The commemorative coin will be available on the SPMCIL webpage. That's where any of us can get our hands on that particular commemorative coin if we want to. Now, this is not the first time that the central government, or any government for that matter, not just this one, is unveiling such a collectible. A series of special coins were released to mark the 75 years of India's independence in the last 1 to 1.5 years as well. It's what the government has been calling Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. There are several other such instances when such commemorative coins have been unveiled or launched. For example, the Man Ki Baat coin that was recently launched, the 100 rupee coin that marked the 100th edition of the Prime Minister's radio address. It featured a microphone, had 2023 minted on it. There was another coin that was released, a 175 rupee coin. This was for IIT Roorkee. It was for their establishment of and running the establishment for about 175 years. That coin was unveiled in 2022 last year, July. Come back to this year again, as far as India hosting the Interpol General Assembly goes. A 100 rupee coin and a commemorative stamp was unveiled on that occasion. That was unveiled by the Prime Minister as well. There was also the honour for our former Prime Minister, late Atal Bihari Vajpayee. A 100 rupee coin was launched in December 2018. It was unveiled just a day before Atal Bihari Vajpayee's birth anniversary. So there are several such instances that come to the fore. On Sunday, we're going to get yet another collectible like that, which marks the new beginning of our parliamentary democracy.